When you're trying to make a world come to life on screen, whether it's a fictional world or one that existed, you need what I call the specificity of reality.
The script by the Butterworths was so well written and so interesting for me as a designer because it was set in the 1960s and it also spanned quite a few years from 1962 all the way to 1966. Plus the fact that the locations were spread around the world, really. We had the good fortune to shoot in Le Mans, France, which was really a thrill. They were in Maranello, Italy, all around Southern California, in Florida, Daytona, and in Michigan as well.
Expect to see some great driving from Phil
What happened to your shield?
11. And Dan
New design!
When movies fail to make a world come alive, it's very often because the actors, the characters, the extras, the world doesn't seem dirty, it doesn't seem lived in. No one seems to know what to do with these tools or how to use them. It isn't just the look, it's actually the way the actors are all relating with these vehicles or in anything.
Is that the auxiliary top?
Yeah, exactly. It's an option. Yeah. I took it.
All of these different locations are part of the mythology of race car driving that the huge segment of the world is very, very familiar with. So we had to do that justice.
What I like about the different races in our movie is each race has a very distinct character. Willow Springs is really about the grassroots effort and this groundswell of enthusiasm for car racing in the early 1960s. And it has a very sort of relaxed look.
Everyone involved went out to Willow Springs and raced and saw the cars and got the feeling of the cars and talked to the drivers.
We are at Willow Springs in Roseman, California, which was the first purposely built road course in the entire United States. It's a 2.5-mile road course as opposed to an oval, which you're only going in one direction. At this track, you have to go in both directions. We're trying to be period correct and recapture the days that they were here in 1963 racing on this track. And the drivers of that period are here in spirit as well as through the racing.
Oh, blimey.
Still racing? We are still racing. Let's go.
Let's go, guys. Come on.
We shot Daytona at Fontana Speedway in Southern California. And the trick with that is just all you had to do is make it feel like Florida. And California and Florida aren't that far off from one another.
This is really a unique location because it's the only oval-shaped auto speedway in California, and it's a pretty good representation of Daytona. Daytona is about 20% larger, and banks are a little bit steeper, but it gave us this sort of canvas for all of the car racing and the circuit and the pits that we are going to extend in the computer and make it look like we're in Florida in 1966.
Daytona is much more new construction, kind of modernist looking, a clear oval with a center track to create opposite turns that they drive through.
What happened in the 1966 race is the cars would actually cut through the center track. So instead of NASCAR, which goes around in a circle, the 24 hours of Daytona would create more of a zigzaggy course to put more stress on the automobile. And we were able to recreate that shape pretty accurately using the inner course here in Fontana and the outer course. And we worked very, very closely with the visual effects department to give the illusion that we're actually in Florida. We've recreated the River Rouge factory complex in 1963, which was the biggest car factory in the world at the time. Henry Ford actually invented the assembly line famously, and this was his first assembly line, and he controlled the entire line from the raw materials all the way to the finished cars. So we're actually recreating a section of this. We've got 3 working lines from the very unfinished Fords on one line to almost finished cherry condition cars on the 3rd line. And we're able to scour the country for these automobiles. We have 20 cars here. They're all real cars. There's no fiberglass. They're all out of real metal. They're the real thing, totally restored.
65 years and 47 million automobiles later, what shall be his legacy? Getting it in the tailpipe from a Chevy Impala.
You're honored, sir, to be invited to this illustrious place.
Siamo molto onorati di essere invitati in questo illustre posto.
Grazie.
We're currently at the Edison substation, and we've turned this facility into the Ferrari racing department. Behind me, we've filled this space with a combination of picture cars and real Ferraris with a total value of about $65 million. Some of the Ferraris behind me are actually priceless. One of them won Le Mans in 1961, and we were very fortunate to be able to find some local collectors who were willing to loan their cars for half a day here. And then half of the cars we actually manufactured in Los Angeles and in Michigan, and then brought here and fitted out as replicas for what would be here in 1963.
Oh, excuse me. Would you not do that?
Sorry, sir.
We're at Fox Airfield in Lancaster, California, and we've taken over the terminal building here that we're turning into a Ford Global launch event for the brand new Ford Mustang, which had its debut at the 1964 World's Fair in April 1964. This scene is really fun because it kind of captures the spirit of innovation that happened in the 1960s. When the Mustang came out, that was an incredible moment, and it garnered so much attention.
There's a scene on the runway out there, and we did it when the sun was setting. So it was beautiful because there were planes flying over our head, and it was just, the setting was amazing.
Over to my left is a Beech 19. It's a really well-maintained example of a private aircraft that would exist at the time, and it's a beautiful aluminum plane that Carroll Shelby takes the controls of as he makes a sort of a grand entrance here at the event. It's a beautiful, beautiful plane, and a beautiful example of sort of post-mid-century streamlined modern plane.
So, yeah, 289 cubic inch V8. Far out. Extensive rework of AC/ACE's front end and stronger rear diff to handle the torque. How should you handle the quarter mile? Well, now, I'm not saying you should go drag racing. If you did, 13.6 seconds.
This is a recreation of the original 1964 Shelby Venice office. We found this incredible building in South Los Angeles that was a pretty good analog for the actual building that still exists in Venice, but it's surrounded by 4-story condos in every direction. This is about a 2,500 square foot interior with a feeling of adjacent businesses. We built a surfboard company across the street, which is a recreation of an actual surf shop in the 60s that was there at the birth of sort of the surfing culture in Venice in the 1960s. We recreated that little cafe and kind of a feeling of the neighborhood.
You saw that same car 3 times this week. Tuesday, Jeff Blitzer, Thursday, Frank Collins. Better hope they all don't show up at the same time. What's wrong with the water pump?
Hanley, Mark?
You could see when you'd arrive on set how much work had gone in to recreate this stuff exactly as it was. And it's fun when you get a chance to do a period thing like this where you're getting to tell a story on this scale.
I've been very lucky in that I've gotten to work on some of the most impressive sets in the movie. The Le Mans set, the Ford factory, Ford offices, and Shelby's hangar out at what's supposed to be LAX. All of them just spectacular locations. They make an actor's job much easier.
The set design has just been so amazing. We did a walkthrough very early on of Ken's garage before anything had been done to it, and it was just empty boxes, and then you come back 5 days later, and it was just incredible what they've done.
Another satisfied customer.
It's a great period, you know, to be photographing and capturing. Not necessarily only relating to cars, but just the props and the helmets and the watches and the gloves and fashion.
What Faden has always represented to me, no matter what project we're working on and its different demands, is he's always interested in beauty or composition, but not at the expense of reality. That our first goal always is to make sure that things don't get so pretty or so composed that you start to feel like you're looking at a window at a department store. You're not looking at the pulsing, vital reality of the film.
We got into testing cameras and lenses for this, which was fun because I'm very much into period glass. We did a bunch of tests and determined that for this picture, anamorphic lenses are really the way to go. I like the classic anamorphic distortion, how it really makes the cars look sexy. And so we settled on period glass from Panavision C-Series.
Yeah, man, you go and you can swing. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to swing. Okay.
My background is actually a graphic designer, so the graphics and the signage on this movie was really, really important to me.
We found archival images from the Western Automobile Club in France. They were good enough to send us images, but we also scoured the internet for absolutely every image we could possibly find. And it was sort of like a big puzzle where you would go through and painstakingly copy the details in each of the photographs.
We had so many signs in this movie. We had over 2 miles of banners that we created just for the Le Mans race that we recreated in Georgia. And we had hundreds and hundreds of signs made, all the graphics for the cars, all of the hard signage and the period signage. It's really a dream come true for a designer when you get to take the audience into a journey to show them a part of America and the world that doesn't exist anymore.
We're in hour 6 at the Daytona 24, and Fords are dominating the leaderboard.
I knew from the very beginning this film needed a serious sound job because I started in the stage where they were actually doing previs for the movie that Jim actually got to direct and create the scene before he actually shot it. And part of his process is to get a full sound pass on everything like that.
Hey there, Walt. Good to see you.
Yeah, after I get out of this pit, Shelby, it's the last time you will.
Oh, don't worry. We got rear view mirrors.
So in the previs version, I did a full sound with cars and crowd and dialogue and the whole thing so that the animation looked like a feature film.
I was brought on in pre-production, so I was cutting the previs with the previs artists before we even got started with production. So I was able to help to work out any logistical issues or logic problems and had a good lay of the land before the footage came in.
We were really lucky because the tone wasn't hard to find. The subjectivity and the point of view of the character in the car really sort of grounds you in your choices.
When you record a car, especially a high-performance car, there's probably 15 to 20 microphones that are set about the car. The exhaust, in the cabin, on the engine block, any place you can think that might generate sound. You may want to hear one element and not the others, and then you won't know until you match it to the picture that you're shooting it for. Then you've got the microphones outside that have the passing bys of the car, the stopping, the starting, the doors, the ignition. I mean, you've got everything.